Hello YouTube. Comparison. We typically use this tact as a source of creating more unhappiness for ourselves. Keeping up with the Joneses, seeing things on social media and finding ourselves less than that happy slice of life that they're showing. Looking at situations and people that have what we want or what we feel we don't have, and comparing ourselves in that way where we wind up as less than. Comparisons in this way, in general, are not a positive thing. So how can I use comparison to make myself happier? Well, if we slightly change the way we think about a thing, it becomes a totally different thing. We're thinking about comparison wrong. You shouldn't do that type of comparison. It serves no purpose but to waste your time and make you feel bad when you felt okay, or make you feel worse. We need to compare ourselves in the reverse, not I'm so much better than them either. That's also inappropriate. The type of comparison that I'm talking about to increase your happiness comes from a place of not better than, gratitude. When I'll use myself as an example, when I deal with unhappiness triggered by my BDD or my eating disorder area about my body image in regard to recovery, I look to a place of gratitude that I'm a relatively whole human being. I don't have bat wings growing out my back. I have 2 eyes, 1 nose, a mouth, 2 ears. They all work. Comparison of what could be. If you lose a promotion, but you haven't lost your job, sometimes comparing yourself to the worser situation, you've lost something, an object that was very near and dear to you that's expensive to replace. You could have lost your entire house. A hurricane could come through and destroy it. And people all over live through these situations, and we're all upset about the fact we broke our phone, or I'm not as thin as I used to be, or whatever these things are that are tiny. They're really tiny. They're really insignificant. Potentially they're even made up, like with my BDD, and irrelevant. And we're wasting our precious time and emotional energy getting worked up and unhappy about these situations. Our lights get turned off because we didn't pay the bill because we couldn't afford it. We can pay our rent. We have food in our mouth. There are people who do not. It's not coming from a place of better than, just like not coming from a place of lesser than when you do these comparisons. These comparisons help you focus toward an attitude of gratitude versus an attitude of focusing on the problem. It also stops you from catastrophizing the situation worse than it actually is, from running with it, making it big, making it the end of the planet, deepening those feelings, those negative self-views, all of that, because really it's not so bad compared to this. It could always be worse, but for the grace of God, so go I. It could always be worse. And you know what? There are people in that worse. And here you are upset about this. this tact may not be effective for everyone, because I know me personally, this type of comparison can then lead to guilt. Secondary guilt for feeling, well, gosh, I must be a petty person for feeling negative about this, that, or the other thing, or getting worked up over this, when there are other people going, I got upset because my phone broke, or a favorite item, and other people have lost their homes to hurricanes, and they have just the shirt on their back, and here I am worried about this. What a petty bad person. You need to be careful about that. If you find yourself feeling guilt for trying to not catastrophize, decrease, and bring that level of due frustration or unhappiness to a realistic and brief passing level, to check those self-deprecatory thoughts about silly things, image, how much you make, what you do for a living, that kind of thing. Kitty. Then comparison to others in a worse situation is not effective for you. Do what works. Do not do what doesn't work. Another type of comparison that can be effective for you, that is effective for me, is to compare myself to myself. Again, looking toward the past is often ill-advised, because you're like digging in things that have already passed, and you increase your propensity to brood and go, oh, look how many times I've had a bad situation. This happens to me all the time. This, there is no always or never. You're looking at it wrong, just as looking at utilizing comparison for good. Comparing the past. We're not seeing a scenario of small disasters, and that's what my life is comprised of. You're focusing on the negative again, which is easy to do when you're in a negative mindset. But if you want to utilize comparison with the self to increase your happiness and deal with these type of situations, chronic long-running depression, or a situation that is temporary but extremely difficult for you, or a crisis like the loss of a job, it is important to look to the past and realize that I've been here before. I've gone through this. It passed. I survived. And what did I do? What did I do the last time? Did I wait it out? I gotta help her, I'm sorry. Aw. Go ahead. She enjoys climbing in my closet. Can't watch an animal suffer. She's not really suffering. She just isn't getting what she wants. And she doesn't have patience. She's a cat. Compare yourself to yourself and focus on the survival capacity. The fact that you've endured this before and everything was fine. It wasn't the end of the planet. And there was all this good stuff afterward. All this good stuff. And utilize the things that worked for you in the past. Recognize what they were and use them again. And comparing yourself to how well you're doing. Not the things that are wrong, not where you're doing wrong, not, oh, back in the day life was so good. I was so productive. I was this, I was that. And now you're thinking about it wrong. when we're trapped in that negative space, it can be really hard to not generalize those always and never statements and to miss out on all the good things that are happening right now. You can look backward to situations that you didn't cope too well. You threw a little tantrum like a toddler. You didn't handle the situation effectively. And think how well you're handling it now. Comparing yourself in the positive to yourself. Comparing the strides, the progress, the growth that you've made. The correct decisions that you make compared to when you used to be a little more foolish or temperamental or erratic or whatever it is. The things that are good about now, good about the way that you're approaching this situation versus what used to be. When you think about your positives currently or the positive way you are coping currently as opposed to your past mistakes or your worser times or the ways that you didn't effectively deal with the situation, it can help you deal with these temporary menial type of things. If you're arguing on the phone with a salesperson about your bill and they're driving you mad, it's our responsibility how we feel. People don't make us feel things. But this is frustrating, to have these debates with rude people. It's up to you to let it affect you. But if it is affecting you and you are unhappy, you are frustrated, perhaps in the past, you may have told that person off. You may have lost your temper and gone off and been equal in kind to that person who was rude to you. This time you have a level head, you're respectful, you stand up for yourself, and you make a payment compromise. And you have a solution to the problem. Remembering that this has happened before and I was pretty ineffective. And this time I was pretty effective can make you feel good. Even though you still have those bills to pay in an arrangement. Those comparing yourself now to others in a position of not lesser than, not better than, but gratitude. Gratitude for what you have can remove you from insignificant, silly problems. Comparing yourself to times when similar things have happened and it passed, it was done, you were fine, you survived it, even really bad situations, even comparing your current silly situation to some serious shit that you've gone through and you survived can make this stuff seem silly. And comparing yourself to previous worser periods or failing to effectively deal with this type of situation and seeing how well you're doing now can bring that right back down. So if you're utilizing comparison as a technique, when you compare yourself to others, do it from a place of gratitude and appreciating what you have, that this thing is small and insignificant. If that's followed by a tirade of secondary guilt feelings, don't even go there. Compare yourself to yourself. Again, focusing on the positives. The only way you can focus on the negatives is to see the previous times as less effective, and the fact that you're even trying to process this time and deal with this effectively, automatically you're doing better. Not getting all worked up. Pat yourself on the back. Feel better. And you can think clearly and deal with the issue. Compare yourself to yourself in times that you struggled with far worse things and you came out standing. This is temporary. If you're dealing with a long-term depression, recognizing that there was bad times and there was good in between, This is time, temporary. It can make it easier to endure by looking back and realizing you've been here before. It goes away. You just gotta wait. And you know you can because you have. So that is how you use comparison effectively to help boost your happiness. To realize you can survive, to minimize a problem, to prevent catastrophizing, and to be grateful for where you're at. All of these things shift the trajectory of your mind and the weight of this problem on your mind. It allows you to proceed more effectively. But you have to approach this skill tactfully, carefully, or you can make yourself feel worse. If you're not able to clearly approach this skill, stay away from it, because you don't want to go down the rabbit hole of comparing yourself to being worser or all these bad things I'm thinking about now. You just need to stay away from this skill if that doesn't work for you. This is one of those that can be tricky for some and can be highly effective for others. I know I've personally been through some shit. I mean, everybody's been through some shit. And it makes the fact that I've been through some shit, little problems, I need to just calm down. Like, it really brings them right back down to size. When I can look backward and realize the things that I've been through and came out fine, that this really is a non-thing. And to realize my growth in comparison to the past, that I'm dealing with this much better than I used to, can help. It can make things seem silly and small. But I need to steer clear of the other types of comparison, especially with others, because it brings needless secondary guilt. And so when I talk about things, pick and choose, try them on. If they don't work, don't use them. I am nobody. I am not a therapist. I'm just some woman who has picked up through therapy or life enduring depression from bipolar and situations that I've gleaned some tactics that work for me, and I'm passing them on. If they don't work, don't use them. So that's how you use comparison to increase your happiness. And if it's not increasing your happiness, if it causes you to go down the rabbit hole, don't try it. I have these disclaimers, I keep saying over and over, on this particular topic because I know it was challenging for me. If anything that I didn't disclaim is challenging for you or brings you down more than it brings you up, don't do it. We do what works. Stop what doesn't. Have a good day, and I hope you're having a better day than me. But I've had worse days. So this one's just fine. See that comparison? Okay, I'm really done. Love you guys. Bye, YouTube.